Hello everyone, I'm going to talk about the cache. So what is cache? So I will start from this follow. So cache is very famous for the Redis. So what is cache? A cache is just a temporary store that keep recently used data handling, so you can get it much faster for the next time. So this is the cache. Cache has some popular, right? So this one is also popular for the cache. And this one is also, and this one is also. Yeah, let's keep going. Next. So why we need a cache? So when we encounter some problems, right, there's some data in the database. It's when you get some data, it has some latency. So cache come here, you can see here, it's around so many times faster than the disk on average. So this is a way to avoid the purpose for is to avoid the low latency, right? So the caching come up most every time you need to handle high read traffic. Your database become the bottleneck, latency starts creep up, right? So it's waiting for you to say the word cache. So reading the user profile, for example, this is example, reading the user profile from the Postgres may take 50 milliseconds, but read from an in-memory cache like Redis takes just 1 millisecond. That is a 15 times improvement in latency. Database stored data on disk, and every query pay the cost of disk access. Memory sits much closer to the CPU and avoids that entirely. Cache are essential for scalable system. They reduce load on the database and cut latency dramatically, but they also create new challenge around invalidations and failures handling. So this is why we need cache here. So how to use that and where to put it. So we have three normal things. One is called external cache, and second is content delivery network client-side cache in process cache. So start from the first one, external cache. So for example, here the clients sending the request for the application servers. Applications were to check the cache first, right? Redis, and then if this one is not finding anything, then it will read from the database as the fallback. So this is, you have to create external configuration for the cache. For example, if you're familiar with the Spring Boot framework, which is called Hibernate database. And the first level is open by default, but the second level you have to do some configuration and then to set up something to connect it with the Redis. Then you can use the cache to improve the data access. So this is external cache. Second is in process cache. So because every service, we can treat it like small computers, right? Every small computers, you have the built-in memory. So you can also set in every local servers as a cache. Then you hit the database. This is called the process cache. It's kind of like built-in. Okay, so the third one is called the content delivery network. Content delivery network. So this means that you create a lot of the huge image videos on the content delivery network. You have to deploy it on that, right? So current here servers, you have to, based on sometimes you have to update the different content delivery network. And the client then, based on their location, they will read those informations from the closest CDN. So this is a way, it's a very common way to I would say this is very common way in lots of the system designed architecture. Okay, so the fourth one is the client-side cache. It's built in the client side because client side they also use like a computer, right, to do something, which means he also has some built-in memory. You can use that. Then we can build the cache in the client side when they want to search in something or sending requests, we can send it in the cache, not to calling the servers over and over again. So this is client-side cache. Okay, so now let's keep diving into what is the cache architecture. So one is the cache aside. So this is one of the check the cache first, then read from the database fallback. And it is write through, right? So when you want to hit the cache and update some information in the cache, then it will sync up to the database. So it's kind of like a write through architecture. But this one is also encounter some problems. If so many times write, how could you do that? So we have the write behind, right? So we write it, cache, and then read it from the cache. Not just the directly immediately to write in the database. We have some latency behind this, so this one is kind of like a trade-off. And also this is what are called the read-throughs. So we have the service and check it first and then read from the database as fallback. So this is a read-through. So based on the different situation, you have to choose different thing. So cache eviction, how do you speak it? Eviction. Okay, cache eviction policy is least recently used. Evict item that haven't been used recently, most common and the balanced default. The least frequency used evict item that are used least often and even accessed recently, good for high scale patterns. First in, first output, right? So evict the oldest item first, simple but rare the right choice. Time to live. Each item expires after a set time, 5 minutes, and great for data that can go stale like API response. So it's very common is the least recently used. So what is the common issues for the problem? There's have the common issues, right, which is called Sundering Herd, cache stampede. So this is kind of like when you call the hash, it's missing out, right? So you will go to the database. So it's kind of like there are so many clients. It's kind of like social network. Then it's where access specific people or somewhere to hit the cache to get something. And currently now, cache just hit up and broke. And then currently now, so many requests were sending to the database, and the database will be overwhelmed. This is the problem here. So how can we solve these problems? Is first is requires coalescence and single flights allows only one requires to rebuild the cache while others waiting for the result. So this is most effective solution. So you have to do some configurations and set the logic inside here. And the cache warming, refresh popular keys proper active before they expire. This is only help when use the TTL-based expressions. And if you invalid cache on write instant, warming does not prevent stamp. So this is more common to solve this problem. Okay, what is the cache consistency? Right, so if kind of like if current here you got hit the cache, And for here, database is already updated the information. For the social medias, it's okay, but for the something you have to strong consistent, it's not work. So have some solution here, which is called the cache. You can use the time to do that. And the first start from the first solution is cache invalidate on write and delete the cache entry after update the database so it gets repopulate with the fresh date. And the second way is use the short TTL for the state to torrent. Let it slide stable date leave temporary for even if eventually is consistent is acceptable. It's kind of like social medias. When you update your name, you don't need to get it immediately. So this is a way to do that. You just need to eventually consistent, right? After refresh a few times, it's okay, then will be okay. Accept the eventual consistent for feed metrics and analysis. A short delay is usually fine. So this is a solution for the cache consistency. Okay, so another problem is like hotkey. So for example, current here, there's some famous people like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is popular singer, yeah. It's hit, right? It's very often to access this one, so sometimes it's not good. And this cache will be too much often, and this one is not. It's very cold, so it's kind of like a resource not average. Some resource is waste. So we have some problems is the replicate hotkey and store the same value on the multiple cache nodes, and the load balance reads across them. So it's kind of like current here is Taylor Swift. So many fans or something, we can separate it to every cache have this one information, and then use the a load balance to redirect some requests to the different cache and make sure they are average. And also second is add a location for bad cache, keep extremely hot values in process to avoid pounding the Redis. It's here, cache here. And apply to rate limit, slow down abusive traffic patterns on specific key. So this is also kind of like you can set up at the API gateway load balance there to do some configurations. So caching in the system interview. So when to bring up caching, read heavy workload, expensive query, high database CPU latency requirements, how to introduce cache, identify the bottleneck, decide what to cache, choose your cache architecture, set an eviction policy, address the downsides. So this is also a way to do that. Yeah, thank you.